It might take a little bit to buffer.
Okay, it seems like it's ready there.
Okay.
And I should have some tools on the left side.
There you are. I see you.
Yeah, you see me, but I don't see anything on the left bar. I have there it is. I found it. So the instructions are, say, on the right, and it's on the left.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what I was saying right. I meant left, yes. I don't know why I was saying right. Yeah, it's on the left-hand side. Sorry.
Okay.
And that green button should let you share your screen. So now it's going to look like it's collapsing, and that's okay. Because now you can just click on your tabs, go to your sheets, whatever it is that you're going to share. I see your Google Sheet. And now we can see your screen.
Okay. So everything before that, right, Kathy, you will edit out.
Yes. Yes, I'll edit all that out.
Okay. Yay. We'll get started here in a moment. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye.
Good afternoon. I am so excited that you have decided to join us for learning how to use Google Sheets. This is a webinar that is produced for Garland Independent School District. Today, first thing we're going to do is I will introduce you to your presenter, myself, and to our facilitator. Then we will going to talk about what is Google Sheets, how to use Google Sheets, and there will be a question and an answer time. Please remember that this webinar is being recorded. At the end of the recording, there will be a place for you to get the CPE credit link from so that you can get the credit that you have earned by watching this webinar. My name is Teresa Kinney. I'm an interventionist at Stevens Elementary. I'm in my 11th year of education, and I have 20 plus years of corporate experience. I'm a DEIC member, and you can contact me at tjkinney@garlandisd.net. This information will be on the last sheet of the presentation at the end of the webinar, so don't get in a hurry to write it all down. It's all there for you at the very end. Today, my facilitator is Delma Delfor. She is the librarian at Watson Technology Center for Math and Science. She has taught for 26 years. 10 of those years was in secondary special education and ESL. For the past 16 years, she has been at Watson MST. She loves to help students develop a love of reading, coding, and robots. And you can contact her at ddefoor@garlandisd.net. And remember, that information is at the end of the presentation. So what is Google Sheets? It is a tool within Google Drive. And if you're not using Google Drive, I so highly recommend that you are using Google Drive. It affords you the opportunity to get to your documents no matter where you are at any time that you need to. You'll be able to always work on your documents no matter where you are. I love Google Drive. So if you're not there yet, please look up Google Drive, search it on Google. So Google Sheets is within the Google Drive family. What Google Sheets will help you do is capture data that you need to manipulate, analyze, monitor, and sort. So now let's get into why you have really come to watch this webinar. We are going to look at some information that I have already prepared for us. Please know, all of this information is fictitious. While there may be a Mary Jones who has a teacher by the name of Wilson, this is fictitious data. I just made all of this up. This has nothing to do with any person or anyone, okay? All fictitious. One of the things I have found with Google Sheets is the help. Help is a great way for you to find information that you might need through learning. Click on Help in the search. Let's say I want to search how to insert something. I would simply type in the information that I'm looking for. It will begin to give you a list of all of the information that is connected with insert. You can click on it. Some of the functions will automatically drop into whatever cell you have already clicked in. Some of the information will then push you out to additional information for you to read about. So I like to kind of be careful, make sure that I've clicked in an empty cell when I'm looking for something in Help. Help is a great tool for you in Google Sheets. Google Sheets, if you have ever used Microsoft Excel, they are very, very similar. A spreadsheet is laid out with columns and rows. You can always get to your home by coming to the very center here. So if I'm looking at this particular cell, I'm at A3. You may think, oh, well, I really don't need to know that. But assure you, you will need to know that, especially as we start writing some of the wonderful formulas that we're going to do towards the end of the webinar. It is very important that you learn to maneuver yourself through the sheet so that you can see where the data is. The cells are very, very important for you. Let's look at how to center the data. I like this data that I have here for the information, but I need it to be centered. So I'm going to click, just a left click in the first cell, hold the click down and drag across and down. You'll see that it's a light blue shading. When I take my finger off the left click, it will put a box around all of the data that I want to do something with. I want to maneuver. I want to manipulate this data. I want this to be centered. On my control bar across the top, one of the items that I have chosen is center. Here, I click on the button, on the option. You can do a left justify, a center, or a right justify. And as you drag across, you can see it tells you what all the data is now centered. Pardon me. Okay. Centering is very easy. Maybe my columns, they look a little wide to me. I want to rechain. I want to reset these columns. If I click on the column, drag across, I just have my left click held down till I have all of the columns highlighted that I want to use, and then let go of the click. Then I'm going to do a right click. I love rights and left clicks. Those right clicks will give you extra information for processes that you can do on your sheet. Here I want to resize those columns D through F. And I do a left click on that. Here, the default, I have set it at 100. That's what comes standard with Google Sheets. But I only want them to be 50 wide. And I click OK. And you notice that it has maneuvered it. Well, 50 is not big enough. It's cutting off my title there. So I'm going to do a right click again, resize, and I'm going to try 75. And then OK. Notice that that got pretty much all of my data in there. I'm going to click off of that. As long as you have your data highlighted, you can do multiple functions with that data while you are there, as long as it stays highlighted. Pardon me, I'm sorry, I've had a cold. Let's look at these titles here. They seem very tight to me in the box. So I want to manipulate that title. So I've done a left click, drag across the 3 titles that I want to maneuver. Then I'm going to go to the format option, click on that, just a simple left click, and come down to text rotation. There are some preset labels that you could choose if you like. I like to choose my own. So I come down to the angle, and I want it to be at 45 degrees. And you'll notice that it rotates the data. And now when it prints, I'm not taking up a very large amount of space for a longer title. And then my data is still all together in a nice, concise manner, and it's saving my paper. The other thing that you can do to save space is merge your cells together. You'll see that this is a very long cell as opposed to the multiple cells that are across the bottom here. Oh, and this one I've got it just a little too long. I need to resize that. So what I can do is I right click. Remember that right click? We love right click. And I can see other options that I could do with this cell. This is not what I want to do with the cell. So I'm going to go back to the cell, format, and I want to merge cells. And I'm going to unmerge these cells. So now it looks kind of silly here. So let's click in A1, drag across the whole of my table that I've created, back to format, merge cells, and merge. And I've remerged my cells. When you're typing in a Google Sheet cell, what I have found for myself is it's easier if you come up to this FX line, click. You'll notice I now have the flashing cursor there, and I can add any data that I want to add. Of course, just time factors. I'm just going to add quick and easy there. You'll notice that the data is not all shown within that particular cell. You click in the cell, back to format, and this time we want to wrap. I want my cell to wrap the data so that it all appears in one cell. You'll notice that now everything is in one cell, and the cell widened itself to meet the needs of the data that's there. It is also helpful when you're in Google Sheets to have your data identified a little bit better, especially when you're reading it on paper. I like to create bars for mine. So all I've done is I clicked in the first cell where I wanted to start. That was a left click. I drug across all of the cells that I want to format with bars, went up to my toolbar, to the borders, and I'm going to put a border around each cell so that I can see all the information. I've decided that as I've worked with this shell, excuse me, with this sheet, I really don't need this column about the grade level. That doesn't mean anything to me anymore, so I just want to get rid of it. I click on the column, right click, and tell it I want to delete the column. And the column is gone. Notice that my cell above where I had already merged my data and have my text wrapping, it adjusted itself. One of the fun features that I like in Google Sheets is being able to sort my data. This is kind of a hodgepodge of information, but I'd really like to see all the students gathered together by teacher and then by their last name. I want to sort them. So I'm going to click in the cell where I want to start to sort my data, drag over and down to make sure I gather all my data that's there. And then I'm going to go to the data tool. I'm so sorry, friends. Come down to sort range. And here, the first thing I want to sort by is by teacher. My teacher is in column B, as you can faintly see behind you. So I'm going to click the arrow and come to column B. Then I want it to sort by my student's name. Well, my student's name appear in column A. So I'm going to select column A and then sort. And as you can see, my data has now been sorted by teacher and then by student name. So I did 2 sorts. I've built in as many as 3, 4 sorts so that I have my data sorted the way I want it to sort, that it meets my needs. Okay. Working in Excel, you have the opportunity to work with numbers, and you can write formulas for this data. When you are writing formulas, the first thing you need to do is you always start with an equal sign. That equal sign tells the program that, hey, I'm going to write a formula. If you need help with formulas, I'm going to show you a trick in just a moment for how to do that. I want to add these 3 numbers. So I'm going to type in equal sum. I'm going to start with a parenthesis. This is just like PEMDAS, like you're going to work it across. Think about your PEMDAS and how you work things in order. So I'm starting with my sum, my parenthesis. The first cell that I want to add is B23. Notice when I clicked in B23, it added it to my formula. Now, if I wanted to add a long line so that I don't have to add each single cell, you use a colon. So you're going to start at B23, and I'm going to go all the way to B25, which I can add that myself by typing. And then I close my parenthesis. You'll notice that the system puts around for you a dotted box so you see exactly what it is that you've identified to be worked with. And then when you're finished, you hit the enter key and voila, it is all added for you. And that's the sum feature. If you look here at the E, I call it the big E, there's your functions. On the drop down, you will see that the most common function is typically sum or average, count, max, mini. It gives you a list of all the different functions that are there that you can play around with on how to use and to write formulas for them. And you'll see that it pulls up the information as you drag across each one of the different functions that you might be using. My apologies. The other function that we use as teachers a lot is this average. So if I just click in the cell and I go and I put my equal, the system is going to suggest to me the formula that I use. That is what I want to do. So I just click on it and enter, and there's my formula. Don't worry about those numbers. I'm going to show you how to fix those in just a minute. If you look here, I want an average for each one of those. I can certainly go and click equal, and it'll pop up that for me, but there's a faster way. Here's the trick. When you see this blue box at the end, if you click on it and drag down, you can't see me dragging, but I'm dragging, and let go, voila, there you go. Every one of these cells now has had the same function used as what you used in the cell where you started with. I also have all of my data highlighted. So I can come up to Format, Number, and I want to look at my number, and it puts it in a percentage this way. This is what their average was. If I didn't want it to have a decimal, I could change that as well. Format, Number, and just here to the 0, and it would just give me that raw number. Easy, right? And it makes your life so much easier as you're working with and learning how to manipulate your data. Very quick and easy to get this average for each one of these students and their math CA that they have taken. Okay. One of the other things that I like to do is to monitor where my kids are. So I'm looking here and I see that Seth has a 54. Well, you know, I probably want to be on top of that. So I'm going to put a yellow box around that so that when I open up this sheet, I can quickly look to see where are my students and where did we have some issues that I might need to want to go back to, and it highlights it for them. So that can help you as you're looking quickly at your data to know that this is something I might need to be paying attention to. Gives me some additional skills there. Okay. We took and calculations we repeated. You can also take the same calculations and repeat it for data. So I have a Doe John 2. I don't know what happened to my Doe John 1. Let's just put him back. Notice that when I first typed the D, it brought up something that is exactly the same in the system. If that is what I want, I can just hit the enter key and it will accept that. I can come back to that cell, click up in the top, and I can change it at any time. Less keystrokes that way, saving you time. I do apologize for my coughing. I want to copy this data here, and I want it to continue to repeat that last number. So as you're adding numbers or adding text to it, it will repeat. So I'm going to hold the shift key down, click on the second one. Now notice I have two boxes, and look what happened to my little blue square. It is now here. So now I'm just going to drag that down as many times as I want, and it's going to repeat the data, adding the next number. This is a tool that you can use when you're trying to add things up. You can start with 1, 2, 3, and then highlight the 3, drag down, and it will add all the numbers for you. Great, easy tool so that you don't have to count from 1 to 100. Let's let the sheets do it for you. Saves your time because we have valuable time here. Let's look at the advanced tab here. In Sheets, you have tabs across the bottom. I have had as many as 10, 15 tabs across the bottom. When I'm working on data, I like to have all of my data that pertains to one topic in one Google Sheet. And then I just create these worksheets that go along with it. You can change the names of them simply by hovering over, right click, and it will give you options that you can change. You can copy them, protect them, rename them, whatever you need to do there. I do like putting all of my sheets into one Google Sheet, all my worksheets. You can see that this is the same data that we've been working with. Nothing here has changed. One of my absolute favorite tools is COUNTIF. It's a COUNTIF statement. If it is this, then you do this. You will see here in the bar, I've already created a formula. Here it says COUNTIF. B4 through, that's what colon means, through B3. The comma just sets off the information. In the quotation marks, it says Wilson. This particular calculation is going to count how many times the word Wilson appears in that data range. Are you seeing how important it is that you understand cell numbers? That's their home address. Okay, so there are 4 Wilsons, as you can see here. And then this is a separate formula that I created we're going to talk about in just a minute. This formula, I'm just going to scoot myself down just a little bit so you can see. I also want to create one to know for how many students Henry, Mathis, and Nichols have. There's my great blue box. Click and drag me down, and voila. Oh, but wait, they're all 4. That can't be right. They're not 4. I can see that there's 1, 2, 3 Nichols. You have to remember to come back and edit your formula because the boxes at the top here have changed. Where I started, my first address is 4, and it added at the bottom. So, and I'm looking at 4. I'm not looking for Wilson any longer. I'm now looking for Henry. And whoops, you got to spell it right, Miss Kenny. There's my Henrys. Now I've got to change this one to make sure that I'm looking for the right data. I have just found, for me, it is easier to come and just alter the information in my formula than it is to keep rewriting and rewriting the formula. I tend to have fewer mistakes on my formulas, and they stay consistent. And I think that's important with a consistency when you're looking at trying to compare data, is that you are being consistent. I think that's very important. Okay, and oops, I must have misspelled Nichols. And I did. Little typographical error. There we go. And you noticed how that 0, it popped up. If you have an error in your formula, you will get, it's typically exclamation points and number signs and DIVO that will pop up because you did not calculate correctly. So it will let you know that. If you've completely tried to write a formula that's incorrect, the sheets will tell you that this is not going to work this way. How about if you try this? That's when I go to help, and then I search to see what is it that I've done incorrectly. So now we've counted all of the information for how many students Wilson has, how many students Henry has, Mathis, and Nichols. I love COUNTIF. It's so helpful when you're looking at different information. This formula actually goes in and takes the sum of all of Wilson's students' test, and then it divides it by the number of students to find out what the average of Wilson's students is. You can take and copy that for all the students there. Just for time factors, we're not going to do that. I do want you to know that if you're going to add something, it is a plus sign that's on the computer. For subtraction, it is the subtraction sign, just the 1 dash. To divide, it is the slash, the hash mark there, the backslash. And to multiply is an asterisk. Okay? So that way you can get all your formulas done there. Come on, computer. I want us to look at the data here. I also do a lot of, as an interventionist, I compare a lot of data, and I have to input a lot of data. Well, I don't want to input Johnny, Henry, and June's data forwarded 5 different times. So what I do is I actually link the cells to the master. And this one for Johnny is already linked. It is linked so that I only have to input that data 1 time. The more times you have to touch or use data, the more opportunities that you have to make a mistake. So I like to just do it 1 time. So I link cells in the tables so that I just have to do it once. Plus it saves me time. It's a simple little formula. And here I need to go see what is Henry's address that I'm going to be using. So I know that Henry's data is in the beginning folder, the beginning sheet. And here's Henry's number. He's 77. Well, he lives at C5. Again, you see how important that scale that is. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. So I've clicked in the cell. I'm equal. And I'm going to go to beginning. Whoops. And you notice that it already brings up my beginning. Well, I don't want B24. It was C4. No, that's wrong, Miss Kenny. That's 87. That's not right. Go back and check your address. that's important to get that address. It's C5. So I need to make sure I get that address right. So here's one way to make sure that I'm getting that address right. I can start here with my equal, beginning, and then go to that cell that I'm going to grab for June, March, click on it, and then back to my advanced. Whoops. See how it gives you a mess up? I've messed up. So I need to go back to my cell. Click and drag down Miss Kenny. And there she is. It fixed it for me. Okay. So there's June. The other information that I like to use in Sheets is to be able to create tables. I want to take this data that I have here for these tests, and I want to create a table for them. So I've highlighted the data. I just do a left click in the first cell. I like to drag across and down. You can drag down and across, doesn't matter, your preference. So I have my data highlighted now. Notice my big, fun, great blue box has moved down here, so I know what's highlighted. And then you can come over to my hot button here for Insert Chart. Excuse me. And it's going to insert the last chart that I used. The one that I used last happened to have been a column chart. And on here, it gives me my information. And now I can see my chart. I can also label my chart. I can move it around. All the boxes that are around it. Sorry, I went a little too fast. The boxes that are here, I can grab onto and move. Once I have my hand, I can move it around. It's got the information here. I can do a right click and I can copy the information and I can paste that into a Word document, into a Google Docs that I'm using, into a slide sheet that I'm using, anything that I need to take this data so that I can show that. I use that a lot when I'm working with our teachers during our data digs and showing them where we are and how things are working together. So I love the tables and it identifies it for you. You can go and label them as well. I know that we're running short on time, so that is something that we could do at another time. If you have questions about anything that we have talked about today, I would love to be able to help you. I love Google Sheets, and I know that it can help you with your data. It can help you with your analyzing, with your monitoring, with your sorting. Just being able to have that data in one place is a great thing. Sheets can do just about anything that you need it to do. There's always a function there. So I hope you have had some great information, maybe some tricks and tips that you didn't know before. If you have any questions, please contact me at tjkenny@garlandisd.net. I hope you have a great day, and please again, excuse me for all of my coughing. Happy sheeting!